Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise, and we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener, welcome to yet another invigorating, wonderful, challenging show, Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. I'm your host, Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. It's always a privilege to come to you and give you life-changing business and life education. And this time I have a very great guest, somebody who is personally known to me. He's involved in the branding space. He's a personal and business branding expert, Mr. Moshaga, Mr. Pako Moshaga. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
I've been wanting for you to come for some time.
Awesome.
I'm so glad you've made it.
Oh, lovely.
Okay.
Lovely. Yeah.
Just introduce yourself to the viewer in terms of your academic and professional background.
All right. So I'm qualified in the fields of finance.
Mm-hmm.
My career started off in the banking field, which I'm still actively involved in. I've been in banking for about 11 years now, and that's my primary. Well, that's how I started. Then along the way, I also branched off into personal branding. I got into this field in 2018 or so. Started with public speaking around the area of personal branding. And then ultimately, I got into consulting people one-on-one and added more services and stuff. And it just progressed from there. And so I like to say that I live a double life, as a financing expert and as a personal branding expert as well, which are very different, because one is purely numbers, it's number crunching. The others involve zero numbers, and it's purely just about speaking and writing and consulting as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you live a double life. On the banking side, what exactly are you doing?
So on the banking side, I'm in the credit space. I'm in credit management. It's a field I've been in for about 6 years now. So it's a lot of number crunching, analyzing, and just.
Is it a personal consultancy, or you're still with the local bank?
No, still within a local bank.
Okay,
Yes.
Great stuff. Let's talk about branding. This is not something that was spoken about 10 years ago. People never used to think of branding. And there's a famous, quotation from Jay-Z when he was interviewed by a journalist, and they asked him about business, and this he says, "No, man, I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man." Maybe that's a good place to start. Unpack that statement by Jay-Z and then explain branding.
Okay, so that statement by Jay-Z was basically saying that he doesn't run a business, but he is the business, meaning that the value and the brand equity is in him as a person. So everything else is an extension of him as an individual and as a personal brand as well. So to extend it further, personal branding is all about communicating your value as a person, communicating your unique skill. So in the case of Jay-Z, that skill is music. It's rapping, it's songwriting, and it's et cetera, all of those things. And so personal branding is all about packaging and communicating your value.
Into champagne.
Yes, he's also into champagne as well. He's into a number of things, actually. So it's all about how to communicate that, how to package it, and how to extract.
So he's saying he is a business.
Yes.
So in the same vein, Pako Moshaga is a business.
That's correct.
He's not just a businessman, he's a business man.
Yeah, so he's a business in that he has all the intellectual property, all the ideas, all the skills and everything that are found in him, and he just extracts them to commercialize them, basically. Yes.
And how would you define it in the Botswana context? What is actual personal branding in BW?
In BW, I'd say personal branding it's not very popular as a term, though people do apply the concept, but they don't call it that. So a great example of personal branding in BW is brand influencers, individuals that are endorsed by different companies and labels and stuff like that, and they make money out of that, and it's a lifestyle, and ultimately it's a business as well. So that's an example of a personal brand in action, and through those endorsements, that's how they make revenue, and that's what makes it ultimately a business. And a number of people have applied this concept. I know V launched a brand of water earlier this year, and that water is a success because of who it's linked to. So because his personal name has value, has equity, he's managed to transfer that equity into a product. And people will love and endorse that product because of the name that is behind it.
When you could have chosen any other field, banking and so many other things, why yourself you felt that you're ideally suited for branding, and why did you focus on branding?
Right, so I got into branding after I'd say I stumbled upon the concept in my own life. So a couple of years ago, I learned of a concept called self-image. So self-image is essentially how you see yourself, what you think of yourself, how highly or high or how lowly you think of yourself. And as I worked through my own self-image, from one that was fairly negative to one that's more positive, then my self-image changed, and the way that I dressed changed, and the way that I spoke, everything about me changed as a result of that. And that's when I discovered personal branding, that I started to dress differently. I started to have a high level of self-esteem, confidence, and the likes. And ultimately, I discovered that all of these things that I'm doing and that I'm applying actually called personal branding. And so after I learned that and applied it in my own life, and I saw the results, that's when I said, wow, this is great for other people to also learn and apply in their own lives.
There's a guy that I follow. As you know, I'm into real estate. There's a guy that I follow on Bigger Pockets podcast. He's Brendan Tanner. He's also a bearder like you. He wears a long beard. He doesn't cut it. What's with the beard? Am I to understand you and Brendan Tanner and others have some kind of secret society where you wear these beards?
The secret is a beard. So I think for me, the beard really is something that I tried out a few years ago, and it just grew on me. Excuse the pun.
Yeah, so grew on you, yes.
Yeah, so over time it just became a thing, and ultimately became part of the brand, that now if I was to shave off the beard, I think I'd look very different, and it would possibly affect the brand actually that I have. So just one of those things that I tried out, and it worked out well.
How important is consistency on that point?
Consistency is one of the pillars of a personal brand. So human beings appreciate and respect consistency. So the success of a personal brand is in consistently giving off content in line with a certain theme, consistently posting quality pictures, consistently dressed in a suit. Whatever it is that you do over and over again, people ultimately acknowledge and believe something that they are shown consistently over time. And it's essentially the foundation of marketing. Marketing is all about a consistent message. Ultimately, people believe whatever they see on TV over and over again. Even if they've never used that product, they are willing to vouch for it because they've been seeing this thing over and over again, and ultimately it's now the truth in their minds.
Okay.
Yeah.
That having been said, we need to maybe talk about some sort of template and answer the question, how do you form a personal brand?
All right. So to form a personal brand, firstly, you need to appreciate the elements that make up a personal brand. The first one is image, presentation. So as people, we are visual. We look and we judge, and we believe what we see. And so you have to present your personal brand in a certain type of image. You need to decide what kind of image do you want to give to the world. Is it a social, casual image? Is it a formal, corporate kind of look? So decide first on the image that you want to have. Then from there, you work on your value proposition. Value proposition is all about what is it that you do exceptionally well, better than anyone else, and that's your theme. That's your main thing, basically. Then the third thing is to appreciate character and and behavior when it comes to personal branding. Because one quote that I love says, a personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And it's not gossip, it's what they say based on what they see you do.
I've heard someone said it's not gossip if it's correct and
exactly, 100%, and that's exactly what
just
it is.
the description of you.
Yeah, it's just a description of you based on the things that you do often, on the habits, on the behaviors, and everything. So those three elements are ultimately what will form your brand.
And you've obviously been dealing with customers, and you've seen the whole spectrum. Who in your view needs a personal brand?
I think the people that need a personal brand is basically anyone that has a skill that they want to commercialize. A skill or a talent that they want to use to make money off of. So a sports person needs a personal brand because they want to get endorsements from different brands. Someone that's in business wants to gain clients, and a personal brand is one way to gain clients because clients ultimately do work with the person behind that business. So as you form a strong personal brand, you can transfer that value from your personal brand to your business brand. And another set of people that need a personal brand are people that are working in offices, because if you want to be promoted and given opportunities in the workplace, those will come to you based on your personal brand. If you have a negative brand, let's say you are a latecomer, it's highly unlikely that you'll be given any opportunities because you have a negative personal brand. But if you have a positive one of being on time, being presentable, always being consistent with your word and your work, then you have a positive brand, and opportunities will come to you because of the brand that you have. So anyone that wants success in life needs to appreciate how to build a brand, and that they actually have a brand right now, just that it's a passive brand because they are not actively trying to build it. Yes.
Just on that point, is social media consistency important for a brand? And I know you've touched on consistency. I'm asking this because some people say there's sometimes incongruency. In other words, people say what you appear on your Instagram photos is very different from what you are. You're always holding stacks of cash, but we know at the bank there's no cash. Or you're driving a flashy car, but we know that it's not a car, it's your car. It's either it's rented or it's borrowed from somebody else.
So I'd say the first thing is that the foundation of a brand is being genuine. It's the genuine value that you have in you. A genuine skill or business or whatever it is. So it's based on truth. So you build a brand around that value, that factual and tangible value that you have. So in terms of social media, consistency is important because social media has a lot of content, a lot of different people locally, in the region, globally. And so for you to stand out, you need to be seen regularly, consistently, posting content, whether it's a picture or it's videos or text or whatever it is. You need to be seen regularly, and for you to be ultimately noticed above the rest is for you to be, so to say, in people's faces often. And then that's how you'll be able to build your brand.
But there's a school of thought that sometimes you are cheapening yourself by appearing too much or being everywhere. That there's something to be said for silence. There's something to be said for creating value through lack of easy availability. Have you heard this argument, this school of thought, and what do you think about it?
I have. I have also heard people saying that personal branding is more like bragging, in a sense that you are proud and that you are putting yourself out there and you want to be known. Exactly. 100%. So I've heard people say that often. So I always say it's all about tact, and there's a fine line, of course. So it's about understanding social media marketing and having a strategy to understand that you don't need to post every single day.
Mm.
3 times a week is enough for you to be seen, you know. So it's all about finding that balance between overdoing it and underselling yourself as well. And it's also about seeing how other established names act or post online. So you can take an example of, let's say, someone that I follow well, Vusitembe Kwayo. He's a speaker and he's a businessman and everything. So you could take a leaf from his book and see, how does someone who has mastered this thing do it? How often does he post? What kind of content does he put out? And then you basically sample that and then apply it at your own level and then gauge the results over time.
On the other side, the people like Gary V, who's just relentless. I don't know whether he posts 20 times a day, I don't know. So there are some extreme cases, 100%. But they doesn't seem to have affected their brand. If anything, they're doing very well.
True.
So where is the fine line? How do you pick who to emulate, as it were?
I think the fine line is largely around the content that you're trying to push now. Gary V speaks to business, marketing, and so many aspects of business.
And so many things.
Exactly. So he touches on a number of things, and so he has almost endless content to.
And he has guys following him with cameras everywhere.
Exactly, and exactly. So he's brought people into his lifestyle, you know. So there's a fine line between. Gary V is almost like the Kardashians in a sense, you know. It's like people that have their lives on camera almost the entire day. And that's different from building a brand. That's a completely different line. And so it's important to decide.
Seems to have worked for the Kardashians. One of them is a billionaire.
Exactly. No, it's definitely worked for them. So it's really up to someone to decide what do they want to do, and the local market as well. Does it cater for the that type of thing, of being on TV or on camera 24/7 or not? And I believe that in the landscape that we have here, it's all about coming in and out of the scene, being seen, going back a bit for.
But it's only what, the most 2.5 million.
Exactly.
So maybe you have your eyes on the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is anything between 7 and 8 billion.
Oh, true. So, but you do start in your local market, build a base, achieve success here, and then branch out into other regions.
Yeah. And the next question that arises from that is, what's the actual ultimate value of a brand? If it was calculable or monetizable, what is the actual value?
So the ultimate value of a brand is opportunities. Opportunities which ideally relate to money, being paid for a service or even being paid for a picture of yourself. So personal branding is all about how to stand out, and in standing out you draw in opportunities. So I gave an example about brand influencers. So they stand out and they've gained endorsements in kind, in cash and the likes, and so they've managed to achieve success in their line in terms of personal branding. So in my line, as an example, as a speaker, so for me, opportunities would be being called to speak at an event because of my brand, which is out there. And that gig is a paying gig, hopefully anyway. So that's ultimately what a brand is meant to do. So opportunities in your lane might be money, it might be promotion, might be so many things. So it depends on each person.
Using your company or your situation as an example, do you mind giving specific cases of how this dynamic actually worked, without necessarily mentioning names?
Yeah. Okay. So in my line, I've gotten interview requests through social media because of the brand that I've built on social media. I've been interviewed by 4 local radio stations. I've been interviewed by a blog in Nigeria. So many areas and countries as well. because of what they saw online. So all these people reached out to me through Facebook or through LinkedIn or Instagram as well to say, we've been seeing you, we've been following you, and we think that you'd be good for our show. And it's the same with being asked to be a speaker. They call me because of what they see about me online, what they see me post online. That's what draws them in.
Okay.
Yes.
And so that's just opportunity more than anything else. And opportunity turns into the bottom line as well.
Yes.
Isn't the challenge for most content creators changing that opportunity to money, monetizing?
Yeah.
What's your advice on that?
So my advice is that if you want to monetize, you need to provide something that is worth paying for. So one, the value needs to be evident and tangible. If you are a speaker, you need to be a good speaker. If you are a sports person, you need to be good in your field. Whatever field you are in, you need to be exceptional at it. So first, work on your trade. Move from good to excellent at it. Once you've achieved that, work on your image, presentation. Because there are certain people that you can just tell this person either makes a lot of money or is worth a lot of money just from how they carry themselves, how they are dressed, how they speak, just everything about them just oozes wealth and money. So it's the same thing with being paid for opportunities. You need to present something that is clearly worth money, that is worth paying for. And so it's vital that one works on their presentation so that being paid is not even a question. People just know they have to pay you.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Botswana, would you say that we've done a good job in terms of branding? You mentioned influencers. Do you think our influencers are getting there, or they're having the positive impact that is necessary?
I believe locally they are really getting there. I've seen some names even being endorsed by brands from outside the country, from SA and stuff. So they've achieved great success in that they are being endorsed locally by clothing brands, by schools, by corporates, and by different companies. And that's a testament basically to the value of the brand, in that it's able to cut across different sectors and draw people in, and also grow as well, in that I've seen that they gain endorsements every few months. And so there's definitely something that they're doing very well here.
Great. I think I'll be remiss in an interview like this if I don't ask you about your other self on the banking side. And ask you bluntly what services you offer and what can you do for an average entrepreneur as a banker?
As a banker, as a banker, what I can do for an interviewer, so for a business person, is basically to advise, to advise on the best route to take to structure a transaction, or how to go about an expansion, in the business sense. So something that I've done on the finance side especially is to guest lecture in the field of corporate finance. And so it's a field that I've been in, it's been about 11 years now, and so I know it in and out.
Okay.
So at times I do get asked to come and speak on the field, on banking or on finance.
What can you do for entrepreneurs in terms of tangible benefit? What do you offer? Can you help them, change their financial circumstances significantly, and if so, how?
Well, I can only speak in my own personal capacity. So what I can do really is just to offer advice. Anyone who comes to me and asks, what are your thoughts on how to achieve this certain goal, on how to increase cash flow in a certain line of business, I can advise them in my own personal capacity in terms of what I know and what I have learned in the field of finance.
Okay.
So anyone who wants to reach out to me, they can reach out and I'll offer
so
that advice.
Does it go to the point of fund management, assisting with investments and recommending what stocks to select and that kind of thing? Does it go that far?
No, it doesn't go that far because that's more of asset management now. So on my end, I mostly deal with the lending aspects. With the balance sheet and income statement aspects.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you recommend on issues of real estate, etc.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back to branding, where I think you're more comfortable for purpose of this interview. Now, you've covered how, in general terms, how one can brand themselves online. But I see some people using humor, including yourself. To what extent can you use or weaponize humor for branding purposes, and what's your take on that?
Humor is an effective, I'd say, marketing trait to use, but it's also very sensitive as well, in that you can say something that's funny on one side, but it's also offensive to a certain group of people. So it's all about appreciating that humor should always be kind, objective, and understanding as well. So if you're going to use humor, you need to study how to make jokes that are funny yet acceptable. So what I've found to be effective is to make jokes that are not about someone in particular, that are not about a certain race or a certain type of people and stuff. Just make it a generic joke that everyone can understand and find funny as well.
Isn't politics and what religion are also untouchable?
You can touch on them, but it's a very slippery slope as well, because those are very sensitive issues, and people are usually very involved emotionally in their faith or their party. And so I try to stay clear of those fields.
Because I think it's fair to say once you get too deep in those areas, you're bound to offend a group of people.
100%.
Yeah. Now, so how does what's the name of your company?
Talita Kumi.
So how does Talika Kumi present itself, and what is it about Talika Kumi that sticks out that we can look forward to checking out on social media?
Okay. So one thing that we've brought new to the company is public speaking coaching. That's our latest service. We offer coaching one-on-one or as a group on how to be a better speaker, whether in the corporate world or the business world or as an MC, whatever it is that needs you to be on stage. So that's one of our latest services. And we also offer services around job interview coaching, around social media branding as well, and around just how to build a brand from nothing, basically. Yes. So okay, you mentioned Talika. What does that word mean? I think I've seen it somewhere. Yeah, so it's a statement.
I've seen it somewhere in the great book.
Yes, it's a statement from the great book, from Mark 5:41. It's
Mark 5 verse 41.
Yes, Mark 5 verse 41, said by Jesus, which basically it means arise. It means arise, little girl. So it's a statement that he said to a child as he brought her up back to life. Yes.
Is that in Latin or is that Greek or what?
No, it's Hebrew.
It's Hebrew.
Yeah.
Okay. And why did you appropriate that for your company name?
Well, it's. I was thinking of a name at the time, and I just thought, you know what? Let me just pray about this. Let me just ask God. Okay, God, why do you think I should name this company? Because you gave me these skills, you gave me this mind, this life, and everything, and that's what I got. Yeah. So,
but you're not just raising little girls; you are raising everybody.
Exactly, I'm raising everyone.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What African success stories can you link to personal branding?
A great example is from next door, Trevor Noah, who's a well-known artist and host and comedian as well. He's achieved global success in the past, I think, 3 to 4 years or so, because he had been consistent with his his line of work. He started off in SA, did work outside of SA, then outside of Africa, and went on and on and on and on. And he's been consistent with his style and his brand as well. He's always tried to stay clear of very raunchy jokes, you know, and stuff. And he just has a certain finesse about how he does things.
I like how he does accents.
Exactly, and how he does accents as well. He's extremely good at it.
Yeah,
So
I think he spends hours studying all accents.
Yeah, he's perfect at it. And so he's an example of someone who started out in SC and is now based in the States. You know, and because he's applied elements of personal branding and he's been consistent as well. And I believe that he definitely had a manager behind the scenes working with him as well. Then I can also think of Elsa Majimbo from Kenya.
Okay.
She blew up about a year ago. Posted homemade videos, just funny skits, saying random things, but also being herself about it. I mean, she was just home eating chips and just talking to the camera, and it was funny stuff, you know. And ultimately, she's grown to, I think she has over 2 million followers right now on Instagram, I think, and she's global. And she's achieved success because she was herself, and that's what made her different from everyone else. She wasn't trying to be someone else. She was just like, this is me, this is how I am, and that's partly what appealed to the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in the space of business, do you have any particular people you're following, or who do you think would be ideal in terms of branding?
One business person I follow, he's based in the States though, Grant Cardone. He's actually also in the
real estate space.
Yeah, so he has a good brand, he has a good following, and I think part of what makes his brand different is that he's very direct. He's a lot like Gary Vee actually. He tells it like it is. He swears a bit at times though, but that aside,
he's had what?
I'm saying he swears like he's
that's terrible. Yeah.
Exactly. So other than the swearing, the good aspects of his brand are that he's very direct, he doesn't mince words, and he is practical about what he talks about. So he's one person that I follow and that I believe he's achieved success across different platforms because of the way that he speaks, and he's just blunt, and they love that about him. He's blunt. Yeah.
He steps on a lot of toes.
Sometimes. A lot. Yeah. A lot.
Now, what do you think are the mistakes that the missteps that people have been missing when it comes to branding? Are you able to say these are the no-nos to avoid?
Yeah, so I think the mistakes that we make when it comes to this field is that, one, we don't appreciate that people notice consistency, whether it's in the positive or the negative, something that you do consistently. People see it, and often they won't tell you, but they do see it, and in your absence, they talk about it. You know, so I gave an example of being a latecomer. They see that you're coming late. They might not talk about it, but in your absence, you are known as a latecomer. So that's just an example of how we take things lightly, but people are always seeing and watching and observing and taking notes about our habits, about how we present ourselves.
So why do you think people tend to miss this? Why is it people tend to miss such an obvious thing?
It's because we doubt the level of attention that's placed on us. We doubt how much people are watching us, how much people are listening to us, and how much people are observing what we do. We think that people are just busy with this and that, and so they don't see these things.
They don't
that
really
we do.
care. You think that they don't care.
Just that they don't talk about it. That's why we tend to think, it's nothing, because no one's talking about it. But they do talk about it, but in your absence.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are trying to create a brand here at Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast, and we have very thick skins. In other words, we take criticism very nicely, and I would like you just to be blunt and tell us your assessment and tell us how you can improve the brand?
Okay. I think firstly, I'm a big fan of the show, by the way. I've seen a number of guests that you've had on the show and stuff. So I think in terms of enhancing it, is to also include people outside the country as well. I mean, one thing that we see now is that it's people are online a lot more. So engaging people virtually is widely accepted. It's very popular. So having guests from outside the country, maybe from SA as an example, would be something that would bring value and will also help you to build a following outside of the country as well. So I think that's the one main thing really that I'd say would take the brand to the next level.
Anything else?
Other than that,
be brutally honest, please. We like brutality as long as it's honest.
As long as it's honest. Other than that, I'd say in line with keeping it fresh, you know, maybe change the location. I mean, I know that this is maybe the second location that you use. I think before you used to do it downstairs. Yeah, exactly. So I think keeping it rotating like that, I think it's another thing that would help to just keep it vibrant.
Yeah, spice it up a bit.
Yeah.
For someone who wants to start from the beginning, what's the first step?
So the first step in building your brand is that you need to have something to give to the world, a value proposition. The best way to think of branding is to think of it as marketing. Whatever is sold to the public is a product that is able to achieve something. So similarly, as a product, as a person, there needs to be something that you are able to deliver. A promise of value that I'm the best singer or I'm the best writer or athlete or whatever it is. There needs to be something tangible behind your brand, and it needs to be something that is consistent and that can be singled out. So what we try and do is that we try to be good at everything, and we try to speak to everything and do everything, but then we just diffuse our brand basically. So find that one good thing that you are good at. Then from there, assess where your brand is currently. All of us have a brand, just that it's a passive one because we aren't actively trying to build it. But we all have a certain label that is put on us based on our appearance, our actions, and all sorts of things. So just ask around, what do people say about me, or how would you describe me to another person in my absence? And you'll get to find out the little things about you that you thought people don't notice. Yeah, and then you work on those. Them. Exactly.
Okay. But can you give examples as we just get to conclude our conversation, examples of where it went spectacularly wrong, maybe even without necessarily mentioning names, of where someone had built a brand and then they kind of destroyed it, as it were. I'm very careful that names should not be mentioned, but just examples,
Of course. I've seen examples of people who had a post from social media from the year before, or maybe 5 years before, coming up, and affecting their current success, and costing them of jobs, costing them of business contracts, opportunities, and the likes, because of something that they posted
innocently,
or in the moment. Exactly. At the time it was trending, it was fun, it was savage, and they just posted it, and it was cool. At the time, everyone was doing it, but because they've now achieved a certain level of success, somehow that thing comes up now, and someone says, "But wait, you're the same person 2 years ago. You put this up online," and because of that, their brand is affected. Any endorsements,
is it irreparably affected, or it can be cured? It can be salvaged.
It can be salvaged if you catch it before it goes public. So in the first world, they have companies that are called, I think they're called
PR, public relations.
PR, but there are also ones that specialize in
damage mitigation.
Yes, exactly. Digging up those old posts from 10 years ago and stuff like that and just taking them out. So it'd be advisable for someone who wants to achieve global success to go through that process, because often people are caught off guard.
But I was told that the internet never forgets. It's got
Yes.
the memory of an elephant.
Exactly, it never forgets. So, but there are people who know how to bury things, so to speak. So it's there, but it's buried deep. So you really have to dig for it. Yeah,
So they just put it under the surface.
yeah, exactly.
Is there anything else under AOB that you want to mention on this topic, this beautiful topic of branding in the context of BW and regionally?
Okay. I'd say personal branding can really help one achieve success. I've seen it in my own life. I've only been in this field for 3 years, and within that time, I've seen great success in it. And so
we shared a stage together.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we did. So I'd say it's just to appreciate that this thing exists. So it's either you embrace personal branding or you fight it. And fighting it, unfortunately, it doesn't bring any fruit. So rather embrace it, understand it, and apply it in your own life. And definitely you'll see success.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's your chance to hit me with a question, sir. Whatever is in your mind.
I'd say, for me, my question to you would be what got you to embrace online media? Because I know that it's only maybe 2019 or so that I started to see your brand very, very active on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, and the like. So what?
Actually,
what
it was
changed?
around August 29 when I first posted on Facebook.
Okay.
But it has to do with having teenage kids in the house, Otaha and Khosigari at the time, and also the elder one, Sekele. They sort of influenced my thinking. But then I started reading more and opening my mind because I had a very negative view towards social media. I had the idea that it's a lot of showing off, it's wasting time. Because I think as early as 2011, my wife was also always on Facebook. I said, oh, you're wasting all this time with nonsense when we are working. So it had to be some sort of paradigm shift where I realized that, look, this thing can be weaponized in a positive way and used to advance the brand. And once, the thing with me is that once I start something, I become relentless. So I hear people saying that I've gone the other way because we're posting possibly between 7 and 10 pieces of content a day sometimes, minimum of 5. So, we have a full-time marketing team that works on these things, generate posts. So, my view of life is that if you're going to do something, do it all the way and see what comes out of it. But that's how basically it started. It was a mind shift that took time. And then I went to a conference in Senton, Joburg, where I met a group of entrepreneurs. All of them, without exception, had positioned themselves through social media, and they were doing great things. And I realized that, look, you better wake up. And including my favorite people like Robert Kiyosaki, who was the main speaker at that conference, and Lisa Nichols. Yeah. So I realized that no, time has arrived to do something.
Oh, wow. Wow, awesome. No, that's great. That's great.
I'd like you to look at that camera, Mr. Moshaga, and I'd like you to speak to those youngsters or whoever is watching us and leave them with something motivational, something uplifting.
All right, so what I can share with you is that you need to appreciate that you have a self-image. There's a way that you see yourself, and the way that you see yourself is based on what you are told as a child by your parents, by your elders, by your teachers, and just what you saw and experienced as well as a child. Any trauma, any failures, and all sorts of things. So all those things affect the way that you see yourself today. But you need to unlearn the negative ways that you see yourself and learn to see yourself based on what you are good at, on your talents, on your skills, on your achievements, on all the positive things that you have about you. See yourself based on those positive aspects and discard all the negative. And the more that you do that, the more that you'll start to believe in yourself and have a level of self-worth and self-confidence as well. My success started when I changed my self-image, when I saw myself based on the positive and I started to speak about myself about the positive more than the negative. And the more I did that, the more my outlook on life changed, and the more that I started to see myself as very, very capable. And so take time and unlearn all of that, and you'll definitely see success in your own life.
Great. I almost forgot to ask you an important question, which is the crystal, the crystal ball question. How you see Wake Up Little Girl in 5, 10, 20 years, the company, and how you see yourself. Go ahead.
All right. So, I mean, in 5 years, definitely a fully fledged and large conglomerate offering personal branding, business branding, PR, communications, and all the other aspects that can be distilled from personal branding. And beyond that, it's about going regional and ultimately getting into something else other than personal branding, because it's one of the things that I love and I enjoy. But ultimately, I have other interests that I want to get into in the long term.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to form a conglomerate which has offices all over Africa?
Yeah, definitely, because I believe that's very possible.
Okay. One last request. Tell them how they can reach you, how they can contact you if they need to get in touch with you.
All right. You can reach out to me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and Instagram. I'm also available on YouTube as well. That's Pako Moshaga across all the different platforms. Feel free to send me an inbox. Let's chat, let's talk, and let's see what I can do for your personal brand.
Okay. Why should they subscribe to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom, and why have you subscribed?
All right. Subscribe to the channel because all this content, first of all, is free. These are people that you otherwise wouldn't have access to in a normal setting. So subscribe so that you can learn and grow yourself and get to learn how other people achieved success, how they overcame their failures as well, because all of us go through certain moments of failure, just that we don't talk about them unless someone asks us about them. So definitely, for your personal development and growth, subscribe to the channel.
Okay. We vastly appreciate the wisdom you've shared, sir. You've been generous, you've been kind, and we learnt a lot from you. Keep up doing the good work. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, sir.